Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us virtually. And then I am missing the phone. Did everyone get to order off the menu here, which is a collaboration with Railroadsburg Craft House? Thank you, Justine, for putting that together for our Women Wednesdays event. Woohoo! Yeah, round of applause, please. Because that's awesome. All right, and we are live. Well, welcome everyone to Women Wednesdays. It is the first Wednesday in May. So May the 4th be with you. Yes, and your Star Wars fans and all of that good jazz. We are so excited to be here today with our lovely panel of speakers. I mean, this is really talking about breaking the glass ceiling. We've got some wonderful women here that are speaking with us and in the audience, I have to say. Like, this is just amazing to have all of you here with us today. So I'm going to do a couple quick introductions. So Women Wednesdays, we do have our speaker series going through May, but then we will take a break till September. So just keep that in mind. If you are interested in being a speaker for our speaker series, just let you know we will be going to plan those for starting back in September. So take a little break. Everyone go on vacation. Do something nice for yourself. Okay. I'm Kristin. I am one of the hosts and a volunteer for Women Wednesdays. And we've got some great people here that have helped out with the organization. So I'm going to have you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then any of our members that work as volunteers. So go ahead.
Thank you, Chrissy. I'm Gina Edwards. As a Women Wednesday volunteer, I'm in charge of the Women's Words blog. And everyone in this room is invited to write for the blog. You can write on any subject. If you are concerned about what you should write about or whether you can put the words together to do it, then please reach out to me. You can go onto the Women Wednesdays website, just look for Women's Words, and you can email us from there. In my business, I am all about uplifting women's voices. I am the host of the Women Writing for Change Facebook group. So if you are a writer of any experience level, any genre, please join me there. And I am also the host of Women Speak Circles, where we meet monthly to practice speaking from the heart.
All right, wonderful. Well, my job is brief today, which is kind of fun for me. I am loving it. I'm like, okay, I'll be there just for the introduction, but I do want to segue into next week's show, which will be with Robin Hassler-Thompson from the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center, also known as STAP. And they are she will be discussing a new initiative for training to help identify trafficking. So the following week will be with Holly Bernando. Sorry, Holly, if I said that incorrectly. From Big Bend Homeless Coalition, talking about affordable housing and its impact on startups, entrepreneurs, and our community as a whole. So without further ado, I'm actually going to send things over to Audrey, and it's Audrey Goff. I didn't get your last name. Correct, Audrey Goff. I'm a first name basis kind of person.
I am too.
She will be moderating our panel today and making the introductions. We are super excited to be here, blazing trails with all of these women who are breaking glass ceilings. So I'm going to hand things over to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. What a delight to step outside and be in the beautiful Railroad District. I am here wearing my Oasis Center for Women and Girls hat. I sit on the board of directors, and I'm a relatively new board member. And one of the things that attracted me to this organization is the Trailblazer program. And for 14 years, this organization has taken a step back every March to look across the entire community and look at women in the way that they are truly breaking ceilings and blazing trails for other girls and women. So I had the honor this past March to co-chair this event along with Steph Shoemake earlier this year, to represent a whole panel of women trailblazers. And you're meeting 3 of them here today. So I'm going to pass it along to them. They'll each introduce themselves, and I will then give you an overview of why we selected them and move into some questions. So Amaya.
Greetings and hopeful salutations, everyone. I am Amaya Waymon, a rising senior at James Rodriguez High School, and I'm also the founder of the Girl Club.
That's right.
You could just say a rising star.
That's right.
Rising senior, rising star. My name is Kristin Dozier. I currently serve on the Leon County Commission. I'm in my 3rd term. I'm also a candidate for mayor of Tallahassee, and I'm thrilled to be back once again with Women's Wednesday.
Good afternoon.
I am Deputy Chief Tonja Smith of Tallahassee Police Department. This is my 31st year. So thankful to be here.
One thing I really enjoyed about our Trailblazers program this year was just how we canvassed the entire community. We had health cheerleaders, we had law enforcement, we had local elected officials, we had rising stars such as Amaya. It's really a treat. So I encourage you guys, towards the end of the year, you're going to start hearing more from Oasis around nominating individuals that might be a good fit for Trailblazers. So please be on the lookout. So I wanted to give you guys an overview as to why these 3 individuals were selected. This is literally the only time I'm going to read from my sheet of paper, but I don't want to miss a thing. So Amaya is 16 years old, and as a 10th grader, she started to worry about girls in the community who could not afford to buy menstrual products or didn't have easy access to them. She needed to change that, and she created what she just referenced as Girl Flow, whose motto is every student should be able to maintain their dignity and self-pride. Her goal was to make sure period products were accessible and available. She's written grants, she's collaborated with the school board and other community partners to really disrupt what you've heard referred to as period poverty and promote period positivity. And as a result of all those efforts, she has ensured that free period product dispensers are available in all Leon County schools. Amazing. Kristin is a leader in our community in so many ways, but the real aha moment for us, for Trailblazers this year, was something that happened when she too was 16 years old. So while attending Sale High School, she advocated with the superintendent to mandate celebrating Women's History Month in all Leon County schools. When she spoke with leadership at that time, they informed Kristin that they would indeed celebrate that when she could tell them when they would be celebrating Men's History Month. Instead of giving up or backing down, Commissioner Dozier advocated harder. She studied her world history book, I love this fact, and noted that only 27 out of 812 pages had any information about women. And with the help of then Tallahassee Democrat editor Marianne Limley, she got some press for her initiative. She made calls, she talked with leadership and other district staff, and 30 years ago it became required that every school in Leon County celebrate Women's History Month. And last but certainly not least is Tonja Smith. She was honored because of her groundbreaking role as the first Black woman to be named Deputy Chief within the Tallahassee Police Department. Deputy Chief Smith has a long, storied career in law enforcement, serving in crime prevention and as supervisor of counterterrorism at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. She oversaw an 8-man squad and FBI agents embedded within the FDLE, and also as the president of the North Florida chapter of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement. Today, she oversees internal and external affairs, training, employee relations, the TPD Youth Advisory Council, and the Citizens Advisory Council. An honor to be here with all of you and these 3 amazing trailblazers. I'm going to open it up by, giving my interpretation of what a trailblazer is. It's a pioneer. It's someone who's willing to take risks and go down a path that isn't there or may not be fully visible. I want to hear from each of you. What have been some of the greatest challenges or barriers you have faced while specifically blazing trails for other girls and women? And Amaya, we will start with you.
Okay, so one of the challenges that I had was trying to see is this something that I even wanted to get out and talk about, because I know that this was already a taboo issue, and I was like, well, I'm not sure how people are gonna take it. Will people even need the products like that? Because I just wasn't sure what it was until I started doing my research. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges that I had experienced.
And how would you say you overcame that?
I overcame it by just speaking out, making sure I was able to collect the products and make sure that I could find ways to get more products when it came down to grants and asking for community help, which is gladly appreciated. And I just started going to more and more schools, started going to community centers that had school students there, and went from there.
Kristin?
So, to own the definition of trailblazers was a bit difficult for me because you recognize how many women have come before you. And forgive me for calling that, I know there's a lot of women before you. I mean, I have to say formal Deputy Chief Smith, but Tonja, we're going to be on first names today. But to be the first woman to do something, that is truly breaking glass ceiling. And that comes with a lot of challenges that I don't think others of us necessarily face, but it doesn't resolve all of the challenges that we face. So kind of holding that in the balance and recognizing those who go first, but also that there are we have more things to overcome, more challenges we have to face, whether it's talking about issues that may have been taboo in the past, or really elevating women's history month, like I did when I was younger, or just tackling any of, something that you're passionate about. All of us can be trailblazers in our own way because there's always more to do.
That's exactly right. Well said.
So for law enforcement, this is a male-dominated field. So being female, and I will tell you, I started out in Tallahassee Police Department, so coming home was always the greatest field. But when I first started out in the 90s, I'm not your typical law enforcement officer, so I had to fight the first couple of months out there because, I'm not all manly looking, I'm not all rough and ragged kind of deal. So that was one of the things that I had to overcome. I kind of developed the alter ego. So I said, all right, you don't want my alter ego to come out here. And everybody in the office, they all know, FDLE, when I was over there, they knew I had an alter ego as well. So being the first here, I was also the only Black female at FDLE supervisor for a long time. But it's hard because I know if I mess up, it's going to be hard for somebody to come behind me. So I got to make sure I'm pulling somebody along the way. So I'm not going to always be here. So it's always good to, one, get recognized, but also put somebody in for that same.
That's a beautiful point. I want to go back to the 90s, and I just envisioned you in those early days. I imagine you were throwing some curveballs. Was there ever a moment or a series of moments where you felt so discouraged that it would be easier to quit? Like, how did you find the inner strength to push through that?
So there was a couple incidents, I think, where I really got pushed. First of all, I didn't like guns. Like, my dad was in the Army, he shot all the time, but for females, the strength. So if you're not a shooter and you want to shoot, practice your hand, those little squeeze things, tennis balls, that's going to be the key a lot of times for a shooter. So I had to really push myself to go and practice a lot. But I had, one year I had like several deaths and several suicides, and then I had a guy shoot himself in front of me. And that about took me out. And I was like, okay, do I really still want to do this? And then we had a big fight one year where one of the officers was surrounded by a crowd. And I just remember that crowd being so hostile. And I got in my car, and I just cried. I was like, oh my God, this is awful. Like, why are they so angry? What just happened? And so the next day, because I worked Southside most of my career, early days. And so when I went back down there, because I mustered up the strength, I'm like, you gotta go back down. You gotta figure out what happened. And so I hear this yelling, screaming, y'all beat that guy up. And so I stopped my car and I got out. And I said, what happened? What are y'all talking about? they said y'all beat the guy up, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who said that? Nobody that they knew, they couldn't put a name on it. It was just whatever the community had said. So I said, how long have you seen me down here? Have you ever seen me put hands on anybody? Never. But I realized that day, because we were the community officers and that we were there, we kind of diffused that situation. So, but those times, I got tested. I was absolutely wrong. Okay, maybe I should get out. But I'm not a quitter. You just kind of go back, you sit down, you decompress. We have counselors that come in anytime we have situations and talk to us as well. I tell people to take advantage of that because you never know, what buttons are going to push. And I'll tell you, the last thing was I had my son. After I had my son, I had a kid. You know how parents are putting their kids in seatbelts? I had a child. I worked a wreck. The kid's head went through the windshield. And I will tell you, every vehicle that I saw after that moment, I wrote them a ticket because it hit me so hard. And people don't like lectures before they get a ticket. I'm giving a lecture. I'm like, hey, I just witnessed this 2 weeks ago, a month ago, and the child's head went through the windshield. And so they're looking, and then I want to cry because I'm all emotional telling them about it, and then now they see, so those are the kind of things that I've worked through, and those are the kind of things you go home and you're like, oh my God, I had the worst day ever. But once you get through it, and having people that you can talk to kind of get that off your chest early on, and so you don't keep it in is the best.
Yeah, having that support system. You also naturally talked about communication skills that you brought to the forefront, and the ability to diffuse the situation, and also that empathy that if you pulled other, citizens over, you shared a real concern. I don't want this to happen to you. And I think we can all agree those are really innate skills that women have. They come to the table. So, I think that there's a big learning for other girls and women who are thinking about how they can put their skills to the test in any spaces they want to go. Okay, so you're 16 years old. You've realized this is a really big issue. You are dealing with bureaucracy. You're dealing with a dated mindset of how women's history should be celebrated. How did you overcome some of those challenges? Did you ever think that could happen?
So, I think by virtue of being at Sale High School, and I think this may have happened in a lot of different high schools, but just the community we had at Sale, the tight-knit group, we only had 210 students at that time. And the fact that student-led, and we were putting on our own Women's History Month celebrations for my freshman and my sophomore, junior year. I graduated 3 years. So the fact that I saw how this could happen, I had so much support there, and quite frankly, that I was raised by women and men who really supported using your voice, standing up for what's right. I have to say, I'm reflecting on this a bit today for a lot of different reasons. So I'll digress for just a second. A year before, my mother, there was a national pro-choice rally in Washington, and I was 15. My mother really wanted to go. There was a group from National Organization for Women that was going from Tallahassee, getting on a bus at the old Albertsons, 20 hours up, marching 20 hours back. And she realized that she could not go, but she found this small cohort of people who were my guardians for that day. And she allowed me to get on a bus at 15, and this group just carried me through that entire experience. And it was extremely powerful, but knowing you weren't alone, that if you're raising your voice on one issue, here in our town, there was thousands or hundreds that responded, but there were thousands and thousands I had seen in DC that, we're all working on these issues together. So even if they're not standing right behind you, you kind of feel that wind in your sails, and you know that you are standing up for something that is right. So that was part of it for sure, that helped keep me going. But I will say there were those moments, like happen a lot of times. What is the danger of speaking up? Could there be blowback? Some people asked about that. Some people asked, well, I was kind of surprised they might have asked, what's that blowback for speaking up? And you have to do a gut check and say, is this important enough? Is anyone else going to be able to speak up? And all those people behind you, whether in person or just in memory, they really kept me going.
That's very powerful. Yeah, a tribe both obedient and felt, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Amaya, this is really fresh for you. This was just a couple years ago now. Did you face any barriers that you felt like, this, to Kristin's point, that this isn't working? I need to just pump the brakes. How do you overcome those?
Yes, I've dealt with many. So it was one of the biggest ones is funding. Like I knew that this wasn't just a project that I could just do and it could happen that quick. It came into trying to see, well, will I even have enough money? Will I be able to get money from others to make this happen? And at times I was like, no, I won't be able to do this. And even just from different people, like for one, this is a women's thing, and then you have men. I have some men where and some of my guy peers, they're like, I don't know if this is something but I'm like, okay, well, think about it. You have a mom or an aunt or a sister or a cousin that is dealing with this, and it's gotta be addressed, because if it's not, then we won't ever get to the end of period poverty. So that's why I really kept going. I mean, it's many times, and it never stops, because it's like, you may see that, okay, this is a really challenging project, but at the end of the day, I know that it'll help all women and girls, so that's why I keep going.
Maya, I think what you did was so powerful, and it just shows how you have a real vision for changing and closing gaps. I'm just interested in the stroke, but I'm interested. Do you know what's next? Like, where do you want to go next? What's the next big project you want to tackle?
The next big project that I want to tackle, and then I've been continuing to work on, is really just getting dismissals and calls for processing. And then going on from there, continuing to move on.
And I know that the tribe that you have around you is your first best resource in doing that, right?
It really is. I always tell everybody that's the biggest thing that I talk about is the village and the support system, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am right now. Like, especially Miss Roseanne Wood. If it wasn't for her, the girl club wouldn't be progressing like she really is.
That's great. I say, Audrey, please share that. Roseanne, she should be acknowledged here. She was my principal at Sale. So the fact that Roseanne could help me when I was 16 and help me as a school board member, she's another person who is a trailblazer, a principal in her 20s, and she has supported so many students, particularly young women, to raise our voice. It's pretty amazing.
That is so good. If you just step back and think about what that represents. And I think the power of mentorship cannot be underestimated. I'm curious how, beyond Roseanne and for you all, how have you engaged mentors along the way, and how now has, maybe even you, Amaya, become a mentor to other women, girls, boys, men, I mean, really anyone that wants to see change in this world? We'll start with you.
Well, let's see. 2 years ago, I would have never actually saw myself as a deputy chief. I was over at FDLE, and I think the fun thing about that is I sat on all the supervisor processes.
Brief intermission. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I sat on all the supervisor positions for new supervisors. I sat on the recruiting process. So I made sure that at least I knew what was going on, who was applying, who was coming in, and what other folks were doing. So I made sure, and if I saw some females not applying, I would inquire why. And then I would help them through the testing process as well. And same thing with TPD, and it's funny because the saying is, once you're a deputy chief, you're always a deputy chief, and you have to be careful what you say, because they think, oh my God, the chief said this, or the deputy chief said this. So my first week in, I have training. And so one of my trainers comes in and he says, hey, DC, back in the day, because when I started law enforcement in 91, we used to wrestle. We used to fight, ground fight. We were really physical in training, because I ask people all the time, who's ever been punched in the face or in their nose and just lose everything? So we would plan, we get in fights, not so much now, we try not to, but if you're in uniform and you get in a fight and you get knocked out, everything on your belt is fair game, so you don't want to go to the ground. So we used to do a lot back in the day. Not so much now because people, get hurt or, oh my gosh, I didn't think we were going to do that in training. So one of my trainers says, hey, can we go back to bro punching people? Because it wasn't. So we have suits, we have red man suits and stuff like that. And so I said, oh yeah, that'd be cool. I think we should, because most of the new hires, they know their phone. And they yell at people with capital letters and messages. They have never been in a fist fight. When you ask them about a fist fight, they're like, what is that? And so I said, yeah, sure. She goes, all right, the DC said we can throw punch. And I'm like, no. I've only been here a week, you're trying to get me fired. So, but it's all about, and I have guys that call me and say, hey, will you mention it? And I'm good, yeah, sure. What do you want to know? They come in the office, they sit down. What advice would you give me moving on? Because like I tell people, this is 31 years, I don't know how much longer I can do this, but I want somebody that has the passion and the love that I have to come in behind me and do the same job, because it means a lot. This job is not for everybody, but at the end of the day, we have to have passionate people doing this job. So that's one of the things. And I do the same thing at TPD when I know they're gonna do hires. Like I have a background in recruiting. We're hoping right now we could get at least 15 to 17 in this new July class, because we need them. But I make sure I look at the packets, and I go out with them when they do recruiting trips, because I want to see who can. I want to encourage people. Hey, no, this is a good job. We make good money. So you can always make more, but teachers can always make more as well. But those are the two jobs I would tell you. Anybody that's a teacher, I can't do that job. I go to school all the time, and that's a job.
I thought there were going to be a lot of themes that came up today. I did not anticipate throat punching would be one of them.
Hand exercises.
That's right. We were walking away with a whole new set of knowledge.
Yeah, you should see the suits we used to have. We had these red band suits, and everything was covered. And you would have 3 minutes of what we would call 3 minutes of and you would literally just box for 3 minutes. And then you'd go to another station, and you would just do it. And it was just because you needed to know what your endurance was. Because sometimes a fight could last. Where's my backup? Oh, they're 10 minutes away, or they're 5 minutes away. And you'll think, okay, I hope they haven't get here. I'm tired. Sometimes you want to just lay on the guy and say, hey, man, stop fighting. So it's just one of those things, but it's always a beautiful thing.
How would you, if you think about mentorship, both those that you have mentored and those that have mentored you along the way, what would you say to those that are listening today with regard to how to be the best mentor and how to learn the most from your mentors?
So for those who have mentored me in varying degrees, I think what I've had to learn, and will translate into the second part of the question, you can pull skill sets from a lot of different people, even if you're not doing the job that you're doing, right? How to communicate, how to deal with a particular environment, whatever that might be, building your confidence, taking care of yourself, all of those types of things. So you can really pull in advice and have mentors in a lot of different walks of life. That is, I think, extra significant when you are one of a few or the only one in a particular profession or a particular role. Because joining the County Commission in 2010, I was the 6th woman ever elected to the Leon County Commission. Mary Lindley was the 7th. And we have about the same number on the City Commission. So while I enjoy a lot of great relationships with the women who have preceded me, you're not allowed to talk to your colleagues outside of a public meeting, so you can't rely on those who are sitting next to you necessarily to have those deeper conversations about how to do the job. And frankly, some of those who came before, it may have been a long time before, so the how we work and a lot of the different issues are very different. in that respect, I rely on our associations, Florida Association of Counties, others. That's where I've really met a lot of women who are my contemporary peers who are going through some of the same issues. If you haven't dealt with social media while you're in office, that's a very unique aspect. So I think drawing on a lot of different experiences, a lot of people who are in the profession, but it really impresses on me how important it is to talk to everybody, anybody who says they might want to run for office someday, or they do want to run for office. I am an open door. I would love to talk with those people because I think it's so important to, as you say, create space for new people to come up and really encourage them.
Incredible, open invitation. I love that. I want to come to this point. You just mentioned it, social media changes the game for anybody, male, female. I'm particularly interested in your thoughts in how aspiring girls today, what challenges they are going to face as we think about the landscape for women now, right? It's much different than it was 20 or 30 years ago. Still a long way to go, but how do we consider the digital environment and all that is happening for girls that are ultimately leaders, and how do we make sure we open the path? And I'm going to start with you because you're the closest to this. Other girls that are aspiring to be leaders, what advice would you give to them?
I would give to them, always speak up, be confident, make sure that you're taking advantage of every opportunity that you have. I know that every opportunity I have, some I'm interested in, some I'm not, but I still take it because sometimes it's the door behind that I would have missed if I would have just said, no, I'm good. But that's one thing that I can say to many girls and young leaders coming up, because that's what matters the most. And also making sure that they are able to just be confident as well as never giving up, because it gets hard. It really does, especially as a young leader out here. Everyone's always watching you. You have to make sure that you're speaking to others, making sure you're able to listen to everyone's perspective, and just really making sure that you're able to be that change and be that voice. That's what I think is very beneficial.
It is a great point, and I think modeling that behavior is really important. But to be the front woman, front person, but front woman for our purposes today. Particularly with social media, it can invite a lot of negativity if your name is out there. And I think particularly for young women, not just in high school, but young women in general, trying to ensure that if they have enough support going into something like that to know that if you get attacked, you should, on social media or something like that, you should be able to say it. You have people who are support, that this should be a space that is how we hope to use it, to share messages, to connect with people. And, if it gets to the point where you don't read the comments or things like that, you have someone else who will read those comments, just to make sure that this really understanding what is your role, who are your supporters, and that, we'll just go and vote the term, the trolls who are out there are using the space for their own purposes.
Right.
And it should not impact what we're doing. Even saying that though, it absolutely does impact us. My fiance, and we've had this conversation, where his friends will tell him, you can't go look at comments. So it's those who love us and support us as well. I mean, the negativity really does impact us. And from my position in 2010, when I filed to run for office in 2009 in July, I had a Facebook page maybe 6 months at that time. It was so phenomenally new. So to be in office during the transition, through the Tea Party, and it happens on all different sides of politics, but that was 2010. The arc that we've seen coming to what we've experienced and the misinformation and everything else in the last few years, it is getting worse and worse. So Audrey, I'd just end with this, that I think it's extra important to have conversations like this, because the most common phrase I hear is, I would never want to do what you do. And it's understandable to, I mean, people might have said that, before 10 years, being in the spotlight, listening to a public hearing, I mean, there are challenges inherent, but I think that tone has really shifted because you may be attacked, your family may be attacked, mostly unfairly. And there may be it should stay focused. We want to focus on the issues in front of us, on doing the good work. And I think most women feel like we can get along with people we may disagree with.
Right.
But really trying to bring that back into space and ensure we still have women and others who want to file and run for office or get into jobs or leadership roles. This is a critical time for that.
Yeah, I think you hit on so many important points, and I think ultimately what we're saying is it's real, it's there, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and certainly not in our lifetimes. So I think it's about staying focused on the vision and staying focused on the mission and building the systems and support systems that you need to help keep that fray out of distracting, out of the way from distracting you from the goals you're looking to achieve. Yeah. And so, certainly social media is a big component of this, but if you even put the law enforcement lens and all the things in your space now, what would you say to a young woman, that's looking to lead?
So we're starting with like third graders going back, because we usually start earlier, but you have to be careful what you post. I mean, because when we're doing backgrounds, we're looking at everything. You from your email, whatever you title your email, oh my gosh, you would delete some email. But I mean, I use this as an example. My niece, she's 24 now, but early on, she's on social media every day. I just took a shower. I just brushed my hair. My parents are on, and I'm like, if I was a stalker, I could find you anywhere. And so I had a conversation with my brother. I said, you need to watch your social media. Well, then she blocks him. She doesn't block me, but she blocks him. And so I said, hey, it's getting worse. We can have a conversation because you can't do that, and there are scary people out there. I say surround yourself with positive people. I choose to stay away from the comments, but because I have internal, external, and we're about bridging the gap, I do need to know where our problems are. So I'll go on our Facebook page and like, okay, they're having an issue on this side of town. We need to send some options over there because people like to hide behind social media. And sometimes, even though they might have an anonymous name, there's an underlying issue there. So you got to try to figure it out. But I tell people all the time, just be careful what you post because it obviously will come back and haunt you. And once you put it out there in cyberspace, it's not gone. They think they deleted it, and we talk to the kids all the time. Well, I just deleted it. I'll reset my phone. I'm like, we have computer people. That's all they do. You just have to be careful. And we just encourage with our officers because a lot of our officers have social media posted. We too have a social media policy at TPD, and so we're careful and we're mindful. And sometimes you get a little upset and you might put something out there and you forget about it. Like, oh, I should have done that. But yeah, it's just about just be careful and just really surround yourself with positive people because once you put your mind on something and you're going to go for it, all the negative people will get in your ear and they'll start posting just like you said, and you're like, I never did that. Where did that come from? So, and just believe in yourself. I think that's the biggest thing is always believe in yourself and you can do it and you're going to succeed because if you don't believe in yourself, how can anybody else believe?
Well said.
I'm sorry, can I clarify one thing? I don't want to ever leave the impression that I don't read the comments because you need to read the comments. You need to know what's happening. There may be a negative story from it that you want someone else to check it first, just to prepare you. That's right. Things get really negative, but particularly for those in the public space, we have to know what's going on, and it's important for everyone else to know we can't block anyone from a public entity. It is open to everybody. So we really do have to accept all comments no matter what. I just want to
I also wanted to add to that because that's something that I noticed as I was continuing on to just out here in the community as arbiters are still being written about myself and my project, like I always read the comments because that helps me. That helps me grow. It helps me develop, and that's another thing I can add to like younger individuals that are coming up. One thing that I can say is, even though it's maybe be certain things out there that is negative, or if you're being attacked, you always need to never respond. Just read it, take it in, and see what you can do about it, but never respond because it's just going to continue to make problems worse.
You have a better awareness of where people are on your issue. That's a great point. So, there's social media. There's a lot of demands on your time there. There's your, likely your personal life as some women leaders balance, families and all that comes with that. And almost the emotional load, right? All that you need to carry, who's dentist appointment, who's doctor's appointment, who needs to go to that, all those things. Then you have your professional life. There's a lot of demands on your time. And I think, this is such an important question. I asked it in a panel format, but I think you should ask every woman that you admire, what do you do to find the balance? How do you take care of yourself? How do you ensure that you have those opportunities to recharge your batteries? I'll start with you.
Okay, so I love reading. I read all the time whenever I'm not busy with all of my homework assignments or working on my project, as well as dancing. I just love to dance. I can just randomly start dancing. And I also like to get my nails done because that's just a big refresher for me. They're not done right now, but they get done it. But other than that, those are some things. And just really being with my positive friends and hanging out with them when I have the time to, that kind of helps me like calm down from just working on that.
I could learn some lessons. I'll just pick up on what Amaya said. I think reading is a big relaxation, release. I try to do yard work, a number of other things, and those are things that I can fit into however busy a certain week is or a certain day might be. As some of my very good friends in the room and others may know, I struggle more with taking that more deliberate time and setting aside a day or a weekend or something like that to really recharge. Every time I do that, I recognize just how much better I am the following week. And but when we are juggling a lot, it is difficult. And I will say just something I've faced during the last 10 years, or actually it's almost 12 years that I've been in office. For the first few years, I was single, which is a unique, it's not very common to be single while in elected office or in, a leadership position. I think a lot more women are than we know, but on one hand, you have a lot more time to spend at work, but on the other hand, you have no one there to kind of draw you out of that when you get home or refocus on dogs or kids or whatever it might be. So when I met my fiance, I moved in, we had a teenager and we had dogs, and boy, there's nothing like, the mind shift when you get home and you immediately have to do that, but
Yeah.
It does check you and say, well, I'm putting all my energy into taking care of others now. Yeah. So balancing that no matter what age you are, this isn't something that you magically understand at a particular age. I think it's an ongoing focus and challenge for particularly a lot of women in different stages in our lives. Yeah.
I use yard work as an outlet too. I call it radiating, right? Just pulling those from the root. It's very satisfying.
It really is.
Yes, absolutely. So I will just throw this out here. I'm an iPad junkie. So I have about 5 games every night before I go to bed. So I've been off work for 6 weeks because I had shoulder surgery. It's been the best 6 weeks ever except for the pain, but I'm like, I found some new games. I get phone calls, they're like, are you coming back to work? I'm like, yeah, I'll be back. Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm coming back. And so Monday was my first day back at work, and I'm like, oh, it's really different being back in here now, so, but that's what I usually use to unwind. I'll get in there and I'll play with a couple games, and then I'm like, okay, everything's good until you get that phone at 2 o'clock in the morning, you wake up, you can't go back to sleep, you pick the iPad. But I like to read too. I like to leadership books and stuff like that to kind of keep my skills I always say you can never learn too much. My grandma's always said, whatever you get up here, nobody can take out.
Oh, wow.
So, I'm always trying to learn something different. Never stop learning.
Well, I don't want to control all the questions. I do want to open it up to the audience. And I have just one to close us out with as we wrap up.
With being a small business week, any advice for women entrepreneurs in the room?
Say it one more time.
The small business week, any advice for women entrepreneurs in the room?
Small Business Week, any advice for any women entrepreneurs in the room?
I would say to utilize your voice. I noticed that that's one thing that has helped me because I thought at first when I first started, oh, I gotta put this out here, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I gotta make a website. Well, that's great too because other people can see that, but just using word of mouth and getting out there, that'll really help. Talking to people, saying, oh, hey, this is what I do.
Maybe not for the women in the room, but join Women's Wednesday, right?
Yeah,
That should be our person, yeah. But really, having Women's Wednesday and other cohorts in the community in recent years, it's been phenomenal recognizing that women, particularly Black women, are the largest growing segment of entrepreneurs in this country, which is pretty phenomenal, and there's a lot of resources. And finding others who share a vision, who can help collaborate, but also fill in some skill sets. I think we kind of naturally come from a place of saying, well, I don't know everything, so let's get a group together and you've got this skill set and you've got this skill set, and that's how any small business grows. I have said for a long time, being in elected office is my sole job. I've been only had one job since I was first elected, but having the experience of being in business, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but in construction, and being on the job site, I mean, it was a training ground for really understanding a lot of what we deal with, but also the entrepreneurial spirit that I saw even in day laborers who would be on the job site. And really, a lot of people have those ideas, and we just need to give them space to really cultivate them and grow them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just networking, getting together with other, like you said, networking I think is the biggest thing for me, and finding people that have like minds, but also people that don't, because you need to bring, sometimes opposites attract, you need to bring that, because there's something that you're not gonna have there, so, but yeah.
It's a great question. Other questions? Kelly?
I have a fast comment. Maya, is this your mom?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
I just have to tell you, I don't know what you did, but you did all that.
We need to have another discussion, how to raise the future Amaya.
Phenomenal. But Amaya, I want to know what's next for you. Where do you see yourself going over the next, to stay 10 years?
Yeah, after you conquer period poverty across the state of Florida, what's gonna happen? That's right.
I would say what's next for me. So all in all, my whole biggest goal and mission with the Girl Flow one day is to make sure that period products are over the whole United States, and then going to those countries that have period poverty like at its worst. And then I want to be able to have my own products just sitting up like always in campaigns too.
Oh, wow.
What school are you gonna go to? Have you made your decision?
I'm looking at a bunch of schools. I know that I have options.
Okay.
Yeah, but my major is going to be political science with a minor in international.
Awesome.
We have a question from the virtual audience. It's our founder, Barbara Westcott. Hey, Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
She's been messaging me. There's like different noises going on. Yes, there is. Have you developed strategic partnerships, and how have they been helpful? Whoever wants to take it.
Your spotlight's on you.
So I would say the first biggest partnership that has helped the most is Facing Brook. So shout out to
Woo-hoo.
Yeah. And they helped me place all the dispensers in Leon County Schools restroom, which was just phenomenal. And that happened in October of last year. And then I've had other partnerships with community organizations, and I'm still having continuous donations.
I think strategic partnerships, I may see that from a slightly different angle. I mean, I think in business, you do have to develop, or in a nonprofit, those strategic partnerships are your core and your cohort. For me, I'm working with a lot of different groups throughout the community, and it may ebb and flow. I just was thinking about your next panel next week. Yeah, I know. Thank you, Kelly. I didn't say no pun intended. For Robin Hassler Thompson, I mean, just focusing on your next panel for next week's Women's Wednesday, working directly with someone who has a new idea and really navigating city or county. That may happen in 1 year. Rob and I worked together a lot last year, and then it kind of fades and we're looking at others. But that personal connection and that understanding and support, continues so that when another issue might come back up. So it is an unusual role, I think, because I may get really deep into one subject at one time, and then we're moving on to 15 other things on our agenda. And I just got to trust this one's moving, and they'll come back if they need something. But there are within that a lot of core relationships, and I'm so phenomenally lucky. I think we haven't mentioned Commissioner Curtis Richardson, who's here today, always Women's Wednesday. I think you build up over time a really broader understanding of our whole community, and that is really important, and that could be those strategic relationships for elected. Yeah.
Well said.
So similar to Ms. Kristin, so I'm the president of the North Florida chapter of NOBLE, which is National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. So we have 60 chapters nationwide, and we have over 3,000 members. So I train a lot of people within that organization, but our focus here in North Florida is building positive relationships with law enforcement, seeing law enforcement outside of the uniform. So we do blankets for the elderly. We go into the nursing homes at Christmas time. We do Thanksgiving baskets. We're getting ready for our annual Dancing with Cops event, which will be in December. And so for 2 years, we haven't had it because of COVID, but the last one we had, the community actually had over 300 people attend. But the dynamic that time was the community actually wanted to dance with cops. So we all did the line dance. Everybody knows the line dance. So everybody out there and everybody got to dance. And it was just huge for us. But we focused a lot on giving back. We're in 4 schools teaching the law in your community. And we're thankful for that. That's a partnership with the Department of Juvenile Justice because we got to focus on the kids. We got to focus on what we can do. So neighborhood watches. I mean, there's all kinds of partnerships, but I'm very proud of our NOBLE relationship. I've been president now 6 years, and it's grown over the years.
Quick follow-up question to that. Any insight on to which officers may have 2 left feet?
Well, there was a lot. So that's just an adventure in itself. So I will let y'all know when the tickets are going to be entertained. You'll be like, oh, I see him. Oh, yeah. And you'll see him out on the street, and you'll start laughing because you remember everything.
And we do get asked to do some of the most craziest things.
I was supposed to ride a horse, I think in 2020.
I was doing that too.
Yeah. I'm like, I've never rode a horse, but it was some fundraiser, and I got volunteered, but of course COVID happened, so I was like, ooh, thank you, because I was nervous about that.
Might be better than jumping off a building, right?
That's right. I did that.
Oh, you did that.
Yeah, so
The things you do in the spirit of community.
Exactly.
Right? Other questions from the audience?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I also want to mention that I have a partnership with Women Wednesdays as well. Last year, due to the being on Women Wednesdays, they created a website for me, which has helped because it's reached me out with more people. So
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Any questions? I have one final to close us out.
I have another follow-up really quick from Barbara. She's just Miss Chatty right now. What are things we could do to make Tallahassee a #1 city for women?
Great question.
Let's see. Probably have to have some different jobs probably and make it more appealing, because I will tell you, nobody wants to wear the polyester that we have, and that dumbbell, the bag, and law enforcement is a job. But I think a lot of it is just word of mouth, the whole networking thing. people have to see us and see what we offer and partner with Women Wednesdays. Because I think that's how you connect with people. They see us doing different things and things that are out of the ordinary. They're like, hey, I want to come to Tallahassee because they do have a lot of opportunities there. We just have to promote them a lot more.
I think there's some general things, like you're saying, that we're in a transition point in the last few years where a lot more people are being attracted to Tallahassee, retaining a lot more students, or hearing, young people grew up here, they go out, they have a job someplace, and I just heard this from a father yesterday. He was so tickled that his son and his wife came back for Easter weekend, and now they're thinking about moving back because they just recognize the community we have here. And that is really important. Having more jobs, having a diversity of jobs. I don't love this phrase, if anyone has a better one, but we talk about trailing spouses a lot, or trailing partners. So we may have a great job for someone at FAM or FSU, but if their partner can't get a job in Tallahassee, we may lose that person coming back. So there are a lot more things we could do there. Focus on safety and everything that everyone else focuses on day in and day out. I'm so grateful. But I'm going to get into the granular because we haven't mentioned Oasis necessarily, and the Fabulous Trailblazers program, but they also administer the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls for both city and county. And that organization, inspired by our very own Kelly Audrey many years ago, and now back in Oasis, I think it has done a tremendous amount of good over the years, but there's so much more we could do to really connect what that group of women is working on with the policy and with a better understanding of what's happening in our community. Because if we're focusing on those who can't get jobs and focusing on recruiting, we have to make sure others have the capabilities to access education, to access housing, to access jobs. And that's what Oasis and the Commission really focuses on. So on a very specific level, I think we can do more there.
Well said, and I think ultimately the way that the CSWG can help in this initiative is to address some of the systemic issues, right, and the larger barriers for women in particular.
I know that you had something to add.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on Barbara's question in that regard and invite each one of you to expand on, think more deeply about your response to that and write a blog post for our women's words site. And
Okay.
I will follow up with you after the panel to let you know how to do that. But all of you on the panel, and also I would love to have an article from you. The question was, how do we make Tallahassee
A place for
number one
women.
city for women?
Yeah.
So all of you, I'm sure, have ideas, and I would love to hear from all of you.
Great.
And just one feedback from the audience. Keep up the great work, ladies. So proud of Amaya. We're applying for another period grant this week with her partnership.
Oh, that's great.
And that is from Katie Britt Williams.
All right, so final question for this panel. You guys have been fantastic. I want you to think back, Amaya, I'm gonna give you an alternative question. I want the two of you to think back to your 20-year-old self. What advice would you give to her? And I'm now looking at you as you think about your peers. What advice would you give to them? What do they need to know to be successful on blazing their own trails?
So 20, I was in, okay, so in college years, we'll just say, I had a strict dad, so my first year, it was wild. So you never get away from home. Just stay focused. Stay focused because it's a lot out there, especially if you go away from home. So I graduated high school in Turkey, the country, and so I came home by myself. My parents stayed over there, but I was free. So there's nobody telling you to get up, brush your teeth. There's nobody to tell you to go to class. And so some days I'm like, there's nobody telling you to go to class. Stay focused on your goals. Don't veer off of that. And just remember what you do at 20. It might come back on at 30 or 40.
Now more than ever.
Yes, now more than ever, especially as 20-year-olds. If you get tattoos, make sure they're covered up. Or you have, I think it is a generational thing, but on your neck and your face, it's, somebody's gonna always be able to tell who you are. So just be mindful of the things that you do at a young age.
Yeah.
That will definitely come back and haunt you.
Tell your 20-year-old self.
Okay, so this is going to be a little interesting because I agree with everything that Mike just said. It's very, very important. I was on a different end of the spectrum, though. I left high school at 17. I was a nanny for 1 year, and then I started working at the family business. And so I would wake up very early. My classes were as early as I could get them at TCC. I did them all as quickly as I could, between maybe 7 and 10, and then I went and worked at the business for the rest of the day. And there were times that my dad particularly would say, "You are working harder than any other 20-year-old I know. You're going to have some fun." And so there is that balance that it is your time to explore and do different things. I probably drive some people in the family and close friends crazy because a friend of mine, the closest friend I grew up with, we did a cross-country trip at 21. I hope people would do this now. We didn't have cell phones, nothing like that, but we drove 12,600 miles across the country and camped for 7 weeks. And that is a touchstone for me of just reminding what it means to explore and to meet people and to push your comfort zone. And as we approach 50, not yet, but a few years, we are starting to talk about our next big trip and recognizing we have a little more money, so we can actually fly somewhere and then drive. So yeah, we can but balancing, staying focused on your goals, but really having time to explore. You may not know, you may think you know exactly what you want to do, but learning about different types of industries, different types of experiences, really, it will feed you no matter what you end up doing for the longer term. Yeah.
The advice that I can give to younger individuals and some of my peers would be just take advantage of all your resources that you may have. I took advantage of my resources, but it's some programs and certain opportunities that I didn't even know of, and I wish I would have. But I can say make sure you do them, as well as having fun. Like you said, I can say that I have fun. You better believe I enjoy it, and I still work hard. But it's times where it's like, well, dang, I wish I would have did that. But I was too busy working and doing this, and now it's like, but it still paid off for me because now I can have fun. So that's one thing that I can say.
Can I was waiting to the end here, but it's perfect coming out for Amaya. Can we give it up, coming up to Mother's Day, for all the amazing mothers who raised us?
Well, thank you all. What an incredible conversation. I think that there's a lot that we can each take away from all that we heard today and all of the networking that's available in this room. I will pass the baton back to you, Kristin.
Yeah, sure. Wow, that was amazing. Let me see if I can get this angled correctly. There we go.
All right. Woo! What a great Women Wednesday speaker series event. Let's give another round of applause. Definitely needed some of this today and very much needed right for Mother's Day. So thank you all for being here so much. And just so you guys know, obviously, the tangible benefits you get from coming here and networking with each other and listening to these amazing women is invaluable. So we really, really appreciate it. And I mean, you got a lot more to talk about. You come on here and give us all your insight about that.
Yeah, I know we need to do like a self-defense.
Such a baddie, right? Anyway, so I just want to mention at the end of this, we all want to take a group photo, so make sure you come up front here and do so. But again, just to mention next week's show with Robin Hassler-Thompson from the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center. You do not want to miss that. It's a new initiative for training to help identify trafficking. So
thank you very much for being here today. And again, thank you to Rare Fair Craft House and their amazing venue that you offer here at this team. We love it. Thank you so much. And we'll be back here next week, same time, same place. Have a wonderful day, everyone who's virtual, and let's hang out. Let's have some fun.
Can you come up for a picture?
Here, up here.
Yes, y'all can just stay right where you are, actually.